Hey guys, what is up? Ioki here, bringing you a brand new tier list for patch 12.14. I wasn't actually planning on doing a tier list for this patch, but then I started really looking at it, and it is an absolutely massive freaking patch, and you guys need to know what exactly champions you guys should be playing and what champions you should be avoiding in order to maximize your climb on the ranked ladder. So that's what I'm here for. If this is you guys' first time on the channel somehow, my name is Ioki. I am a multi-season high elo content creator for support. I've got lots and lots and lots of experience in all elos, playing in all elos, high elo, low elo, tournament play, everything. So I've got a pretty good handle on what is good and what is bad. So let's get into it, guys. The basic gist of this patch is again, massive scope of this patch. Enchanters are getting massively nerfed, and that includes all of their items, a lot of their runes, and some of the actual champions themselves getting individually nerfed or nuked. Sustain and healing is nerfed. They're basically toning down what they thought to be the dominant class of support post durability update. Remember that thing? Yeah, it turns out enchanters are really, really strong when you make them basically invincible. In addition to that, tank supports are being slightly nerfed. It's not something that's going to make the tank class completely unplayable. I'm still not super happy about the place that tank supports are in, so it kind of sucks to see them getting nerfed again, but we'll come back to that because, you know, when you nerf a certain class, some other classes become stronger by proxy, just because like enchanters are getting nerfed. So there, you know, there's still a light at the end of the tunnel for tank supports. And then this is the big one as well. Dragons are getting buffed and easier to take. Now, what does that have to do with support? Dragon is in the bot lane, so it changes the entire dynamic of the map. You know, it's going to change the roster of junglers that are getting locked in on yours and the enemy team. There's going to be more ganks in the bot lane. Bot lane just got a little bit more important. A lot bit more important, actually. So let's get right into it, guys. This is my tier list. For this patch like this, since it's going to be so enchanter-centric, I'm not going to be spending too much time on this bottom tier, because this bottom tier, as it says, these champions are trash. Renekton, Nunu, Malzahar, Ivern, Annie. Listen, they're fun. If you want to play them in support, go ahead, but just understand they're not good. They're really bad. Tier 4, you are hurting your climb by playing these champions. You got Scion, Malphite, Jarvan, Anivia, Camille, Poppy, Shaco, Ari, Rammus, Volibear, MF. They're fun. Again, I play a lot of these champions. I really do enjoy playing them, and you can make them work, but this is a really important statement. You're hurting your climb by playing these champions. They're not great. There's certain ways to make them work, you know, mostly involving cheese, like going full AP Malphite, going like an airy build on Jarvan, because there's a really cool interaction where when you drop his staff, his E, it procs airy for your allies, you get a bunch of shields. You know, Anivia, you can combo her with a bunch of different things, but like, these are cheese champions. You know what cheese champions look like, right? They're not necessarily good. It's just, if you're good at the champion, you can make these work. All right, tier 3. These champions are very average and should only be played if you are skilled with them or used as counter picks. Now, that is a very important word for this tier list. For instance, Morgana is the absolute queen of the counter pick. You really shouldn't ever be like first picking Morgana, but like, for instance, if they lock in a Leona or a Blitzcrank, pretty good to lock in Morgana. Let's talk about the face of tier 3, guys. Yuumi, what a fall from freaking grace. This champion was dominating solo queue earlier, especially post durability patch. And okay, so her EAP scaling got decreased by 5%, which is a lot considering that her EAP ratio is like the only thing that people lock that champion in for, really. Yeah, just really, really low agency. Definitely don't ever recommend playing this champion in solo queue. And to be honest, I don't even think she'll be good and competitive anymore. So Yuumi's pretty much a dead champion now, guys. Alistar has been struggling a lot this season. He's just not the top tier tank support engager that he used to be. The only thing that he has going for him over champions like Nautilus and Leona are that he's a little more versatile, because he can use his W to disengage as well as engage. Whereas like Leona can really only go in. Nautilus can really only go in. Alistar can do a little bit of both. Gragas, kind of the same boat. He does have like a unique mechanic where his R can disengage. You know, he's got the E flash, which is pretty much unplayable, but not great, just not great. Honestly, I don't even recommend building him tank if you're going to play him support. Probably should just commit to the cheese pick and go full AP. Zac is one of those champions that, like, I think a lot of people really want to be good in the support role because he's super, super fun, and he's better than most people think he is, but he's not great. Vex, again, super, super fun, just a little bit better in the mid lane. The only thing that Vex really has going for her is that you can trick people into thinking that you are picking for mid lane and then swap her into the bot lane. So that's called a flex pick. Flex picks are super, super strong. Really, they're not super strong in like solo queue because like in lower elo solo queue, because I think people in low elo solo queue kind of have like an idea of the champion that they want to play, and they're probably not going to change it depending on matchup. It's like if he wants to play Zed, he's going to play Zed. You know what I mean? Thresh, the absolute jack of all trade, master of none. He's kind of in the same box as Rakan, whereas like he's pretty good at a lot of things, and he does have the Lantern, which sets him apart from other engaged champions. If you run Thresh, you should be going Glacial and just playing super, super aggro in the early game. Super great at engage, pretty decent amount of damage, but not quite top tier as he used to be. They've just really toned down a lot of his numbers to the point where it's like, doesn't really seem like, unless you're like a Thresh one trick, shouldn't be playing that champion. Seraphine, again, she kind of has the same bonus that Vex has, where actually it's much better for Seraphine because she can be slotted into 3 roles, and she's relatively good at all of them. She's not amazing at any of them except for ADC, which really sucks. But yeah, that you do have the fact that like you don't know where the Seraphine's going when you lock in Seraphine. Ashe, a little bit better of a marksman support than Misfortune, and she has gotten some decent buffs that like actually make her very viable, but you're still locking in double marksman in the bot lane, and that's a pretty big weakness. We got Shin up next. I've always said that Shin is basically the riskier version of Leona because he's much higher damage. He brings some pretty unique utility that she doesn't, but his cooldowns, his actual CC cooldown is much longer, and if you go in and you miss your taunt, you're dead because you have not procced your Aftershock or Glacial and you don't have it up for another 16 seconds, you're probably going to die. Whereas like if Leona misses an E, 1, she doesn't go in, and 2, you know, it's like a 9-second cooldown. You'll survive. Galio is a pretty good counter pick. Like I said, is a big counter pick tier 3. Pretty good counter pick to tanks. Basically, you should be slotting in Galio if the enemy team has already locked a tank and the good tank supports are banned out, and you need a tank. So those 3 things need to happen for you to ever consider locking in Galio. They have a tank. The other good tanks are banned. You need a tank. That's it. Braum. Don't want to talk about Braum. Already talked about Morgana. She's the queen of counter picks. Amumu is surprisingly decent as a tank support. I think Tyler 1 is actually getting a pretty good amount of Amumu gameplay. We got Syndra up next. You know, she should probably realistically be in the tier 4, which is pretty much just like the cheese tier. Same with Ornn, pretty fun, but like Ornn, the best part about Ornn is that he has that late game scaling where kind of like a safety blanket where it's like if you have an Ornn on your team, you guys are going to scale. You guys are literally just going to get better items than them, but it's level dependent, and you are always the lowest level in the game as support. So it's like, why even play Ornn support? You know what I mean? Bard is in the same box as Thresh. You really shouldn't play him unless you're a one-trick pony, but he is pretty decent when played well. Tom Kent should really only be paired with Senna, and at that point, you're probably not technically playing support. You're playing starving Senna. So it's like, you know, he's here just technically. I think that Tom by himself as a support, not super great. Nico, she's like a worse version of Lux, and Lux is in the same tier. So it's like, there's nothing really remarkable about those champions. Nico's pretty much just like a shorter range version of Lux. Now, Vigar, I do think that I have Vigar a little bit on the low side, but to be honest, I'm a little biased because I just feel like I've never really clicked with that champion. I've seen good Vigar support players. I've seen good Vigar players in general. I just feel like I can never really make it work. I feel like I never get the placement right on the box, so I may be a little bit biased to Vigar, because as you see, as we go up the tier list, Mage supports are actually really, really strong right now. Like, they're going to be super broken on this patch because they did not get touched at all. So I think we're going to be going into a meta where enchanters are still played because people like have basically become addicted to playing enchanters. They become like reliant on them for their play style, and a lot of supports to a fault can't play anything but enchanters, so they're still going to play them despite them being weakened. And now it's our time, us well-rounded support players, it's our patch to strike and punish them because enchanters are no longer super broken. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. But you'll see what I'm talking about coming up soon. Swain, again, pretty good, little on the average side. Maokai is nice just because he's so insanely easy to pilot. He's very, very... he doesn't need like 2 or 3 items to pop off. You can just lock him in, and he's kind of like a nice middle ground between having AP damage and a tank on your team, because you're going to go Glacial or Aftershock, but then you go Imperial Mandate and all AP items. So it's like you do technically have a tank on your team. You got someone that can frontline, but also you can just literally go to objectives or these new buffed dragons, which are going to be super important to take, and just sapling everything. Rel, I'm actually going to move Rel up to tier 2, and we'll talk about her there. Lux, we've already talked about. Talia, pretty much just, I really like playing Talia. She's super fun, but she's better in the mid position by a landslide. Yeah. Already talked a little bit about Rakan. Super average, kind of the jack of all trades, master of none. I don't really ever see Rakan leaving tier 3 unless he just gets like 10 buffs and is like becomes like an AP one-shot carry or something. He's just never going to be bad or good. He's just one of those champions that you should slot Rakan into your team if you already have a well-established and balanced team comp. You know, you shouldn't slot him in if you absolutely need hard engage. You shouldn't slot him in if you absolutely need the best peel on your team for, you got hyper carry ADC or something. It's just, if you already have a relatively complete team comp, slot in Rakan. He'll make it a little bit better. Vel'Koz. So let's start talking about mage supports, because these are going to absolutely take over this patch. I just personally think that Vel'Koz is the worst of the mage supports. There's better picks out there. You're going to see them very soon. You got Brand, you got Zyra. Why play Vel'Koz? I also think Vel'Koz is a little less intuitive. You got to know all these crazy angles and how to shoot the Q around the wave. Whereas Brand and Zyra are super straightforward, and they can always engage right through the wave, which is nice. Senna has kind of gone from being an absolute god tier support that you can first pick and just dominate games with, to being a champion that you probably want to think about why, the comps that you're slotting into. And she also has the massive weakness that you have with Ashe support, where it's always going to be hard to put 2 marksmen in the bot lane with you. So, if you can convince your ADC to play Starving Senna and basically lock in any tank, aka Tom Kench, it's so broken, Senna's really, really good. But these tier lists are for what is going to generally happen. These tier lists are for if you play this champion for 200 games, how well is your experience going to go? And it pains me to say it, but Senna's a little on the weak side right now if you're just going to one trick Senna. Really does hurt me to say, because I love Senna. I'm good at Senna. I wish Senna was better, but she kind of had her time in the sun. She was super broken for a couple patches, so it's all right for her to be average for a couple as well. So up next is tier 2. These champions are very good on the current patch. Now this tier is going to make a lot of people very confused and a lot of people very happy. So up first, we've got Rel, who I genuinely think is kind of getting slept on right now. The biggest problem with Rel is that she's not fun. And she does have a rework coming down the pipeline to hopefully fix that. But right now, Rel is genuinely just not a fun champion to pilot. You basically only get to interact with the game once every 5 minutes, because she's very reliant on having her flash up to make her engage work. Her engage is very slow. It's easy to dash out of or flash out of or walk out of unless you've got the flash alt. But she is actually quite good. There's a lot of especially Korean challenger support players that are swearing by Rel. So it would be remiss of me to, not acknowledge that. It's just, I don't play Rel, and I see why people don't play Rel, but the ones that do make it work. Up next, Teemo. Guys, okay, we all know I've been a massive advocate of Teemo support for years. I genuinely think he is one of the most underrated supports in the entire game. He is so broken. He requires no items. He has a built-in anti-auto attack, so he counters every ADC in the game, some harder than others. But now, oh my god, look at these buffs, guys. Mana growth, so it gets 5 extra mana every level. That's kind of nice, but this is where the big Mamma Jamma ulti is. Look at this. R, Noxus Trap, the placement range has been increased by 200 at rank 1, 100 at rank 2. Kind of insane. And then once you get rank 3, like, you can literally throw them across the map. But this gives you so many more angles to set up, like, shrooms in the enemy jungle without going into the enemy jungle. This is a massive, massive range buff. And then the actual damage on the shrooms themselves has a higher AP ratio now. I've always said that the shrooms do so much damage. Teemo is so freaking good. And then the mana cost goes down as you scale up as well. So massive Teemo R buffs. I've seen some people saying, like, Aoki's trolling with the Teemo support. I swear to God, guys, I've played hundreds of games of it. I've played it in high elo tournaments. Teemo support is way better than people think. Okay. And it's better now than it's ever been. So if you ever wanted to try Teemo support, now's a great time to try it. Pyke. I think a lot of people think that Pyke is absolute garbage champion, and he kind of is. But I talked earlier about how when some classes get nerfed, other champions get better. Like I said, people are still going to be playing a ton of enchanters, but they're easier to kill now. They're actually killable now, which encourages you to lock in actual pick champions like Pyke and Pantheon and punish that early. Also, Pyke got a little bit of a buff this patch. You know, most people go cheap shot, but I kind of like sudden impact, and sudden impact is better now, so kind of nice. Janna, of the enchanters that people are still going to spam, I think that Janna is relatively average. The only reason she's not in tier 3 is because an average enchanter is still better than an average non-enchanter, and that's just a fact of life. Soraka, you know, she's going to be hit hard by the Moonstone nerf. Leona is a little bit better this patch, not because she got buffed. In fact, she got nerfed, but she's up. Her competition is a little less tough now. Before, there was no real reason to lock in Leona when you can lock in Lulu, and she's basically as tanky as Leona. But Leona she's going to be a little bit comparatively better than she was to previous patches, even though she got nerfed. Isn't League of Legends a funny game? Lulu definitely. This is honestly, she might even get bumped down to tier 3. I'll have to play a couple of games against her on this patch, but she was going from high tier 1 to very low tier 2, and that's a pretty big bump down in itself. Yeah, she's for sure going to be hurting. All of the items that got nerfed are items that she builds. Yeah, honestly, you might even want to pivot out of Moonstone into Shurelya's with this champion. So, Pantheon. Now, this champion's a little bit weird because he didn't get buffed in the support role, but he got buffed in the jungle role, and he's going to be picker ban in the jungle role. I can guarantee you that. So first picking Pantheon in solo queue, like getting him as the very first pick, and then deciding later if you want to put him into the jungle or the support role is going to be pretty massive. We've already talked about how good flex picks are. Pantheon's going to be like the best flex picks in the game now. And also, he's going to be a little bit better in the support role just because enchanters are easier to kill. And he's a cheese kill champion. Zillion, absolutely slept on. Karma, again, relatively average when it comes to enchanters, but she, average enchanter is better than an average non-enchanter. Sona, probably going to be wanting to pivot out of Moonstone and go into Shurelya's. Dude, I don't know. Like, again, Sona and Lulu are ones that, like, I started out recording this tier list with them in tier 3, and then I bumped them up because I was like, there's no way they're that terrible. But it very well might be. I would definitely keep my eye on them. They're for sure going to be significantly weaker than they were last patch. Nautilus, if you're going to play a tank support, Nautilus is probably your go-to daddy. Taric is actually kind of in this weird area where he is an enchanter that did not get nerfed this patch. None of the items that got nerfed are items that he actually builds. So I think that Taric is kind of like another slept-on champion. Fiddlestick support, yo, this thing came out of nowhere. Like, Fiddle's got like a minor nerf or a minor buff, to sell a Star Guardian skin, classic Riot move. And all of a sudden, he's like S+ tier in jungle and support. And again, you got that flex pick going for you. Fiddle's support goes glacial, literally like kind of meanders around in laning phase, hits level 6, gets all in kills every single time. That champion is broken, guys. Blitzcrank is always going to be relatively strong in my opinion, because like, look at all these champions, other than like, I guess Pantheon, Leona, Nautilus, Blitzcrank one-shots them whenever he pulls them. So it's like, no matter what class of support is strong, I feel like the fact that Blitzcrank can win an entire game off of one late game hook is like, it makes him strong. Xerath and Brand, these guys are super, super strong, almost tier 1 level. Again, less sustain, less healing, potions are nerfed, poke and damage in the bot lane is going to be 10 times stronger on this patch than it was last patch. Because, like, look at this, guys. Like, look at this. Potions, potions are down 30 HP. Refillable potion now 25. Biscuits are going to be doing less. Yeah, just every single nerf this patch. Oh, Scorch also got buffed. Like, these champions are going to be absolutely cracked, almost tier 1 level. But yeah, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, right? Xerath and Bran, super, super strong, but not quite as strong as Zyra. I do think that she is just the most straightforward mage burst champion in the game. She's got great itemization. You can go Ludens or Leandries, depending on matchup. Yeah, Zyra is going to be. In fact, I'm going to move Zyra to the front of the tier 1 just so that she's like the face of this patch, because I do think she's going to be absolutely insane this patch. And now I know I've spent this entire tier list talking about how bad supports are. So Ioki, why do you have 2 enchanters in tier 1? Well, that would be because these champions do not build the items that got nerfed. They go Imperial Mandate every single game. So I also think that Renata is insanely slept on. She has gotten a couple of nerfs aimed at competitive, but those nerfs haven't seemed to really slow her down. Anytime I see her being played in solo queue or like Clash or anything like that, really, really insanely strong. And yeah, that's it, guys. Nami always goes Imperial Mandate as well. So that's going to conclude patch 12.14 tier list. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions down in the comments, I would love to hear them. And make sure you guys are subbed to the YouTube channel. Take it easy, my friends. Peace.